The rain drizzled gently over the cemetery, where a modest crowd huddled beneath umbrellas. At the center stood Naomi Bennett, her black veil barely hiding the exhaustion in her eyes. She had cried so much these past few days that her tears now felt endless, carving silent rivers down her pale cheeks. Her husband, Daniel Bennett, had been more than just a respected businessman. To Naomi, he was her anchor, her confidant, her reason to smile. Now, with him gone, she felt hollow, like the world had drained every ounce of color. Around her, whispers floated. Some neighbors murmured their condolences politely, while others exchanged suspicious glances. Naomi was younger than Daniel by many years, and tongues had long wagged about whether she had married him for love or for his wealth. Their judgment cut deeper than knives, but Naomi endured it quietly, gripping Daniel's wedding ring in her trembling hand. As the service ended, people slowly dispersed, leaving Naomi alone by the grave. Rain pattered against the fresh soil. She bent down, her voice breaking as she whispered, "How am I supposed to live without you, Daniel?" Her words melted into the earth, swallowed by silence. That evening, Naomi wandered the empty Bennett mansion. Each room held echoes of laughter now replaced by suffocating stillness. She sat at the grand dining table, staring at Daniel's empty chair. Loneliness pressed down on her like a weight she could not lift. Then, just as despair consumed her, the doorbell rang. Naomi opened the door to find Mr. Harrison, Daniel's longtime attorney, standing soaked in the rain. In his hand was a sealed envelope. His expression was grave, almost haunted. "Mrs. Bennett," he said softly, "this is Daniel's final will, and inside lies a secret that changes everything." Naomi's hands trembled as she took the envelope from Mr. Harrison. The paper was thick, its edges sealed firmly with Daniel's personal crest, one she had seen countless times on his business letters. But this time, the sight of it made her chest tighten. They stepped into the quiet mansion, the sound of rain dripping from Harrison's coat echoing in the hall. Naomi led him to the study, a room lined with shelves of leather-bound books and the faint smell of Daniel's cologne still lingering in the air. Harrison placed the envelope on the desk and looked at her with weary eyes. "Naomi, Daniel trusted me with this before he passed. He made me swear to deliver it to you personally, but he also asked me to warn you. What's inside will not be easy." Naomi swallowed hard. What could he possibly have kept from me? "We told each other everything." Harrison gave a solemn nod. "Every man has secrets." Daniel was no different. With shaky fingers, Naomi broke the seal. Inside was not just a will, it was a letter, handwritten by Daniel himself. His familiar pen strokes brought fresh tears to her eyes. The will outlined Daniel's assets, properties, and accounts, but it was the letter that made her heart race. Daniel's words began tenderly, speaking of his love for her, but soon shifted into something darker. He wrote of hidden investments, of a second account Naomi had never known about, and of someone he described only as the one who must never know. Naomi's pulse quickened. Her grief tangled with fear as she looked up at Harrison. "What is this? What did Daniel mean?" The attorney sighed deeply, lowering his voice. "Naomi, this isn't just about money. This is about a truth Daniel shielded you from, and it could put you in danger." Naomi clutched the letter, her eyes scanning Daniel's words over and over, as though a second reading might change their meaning. But the message was clear. Daniel had kept something locked away, not just wealth, but a truth shrouded in secrecy. "Mr. Harrison," she whispered, her voice cracking, "why would Daniel hide an account from me? We never kept secrets. Not like this." The attorney leaned forward, his expression grave. "This account isn't in his name. It's under an alias. Daniel wanted it protected, hidden from people who might misuse it. But now that he's gone, Naomi, it belongs to you." Naomi shook her head. "Protected from who? What was he involved in?" Harrison hesitated before answering. "Daniel mentioned threats, enemies he'd made in business. He didn't want to burden you with details, but he feared someone was watching him. That's why he left these instructions." Naomi's chest tightened. Suddenly, her memories of Daniel's late-night phone calls and his restless pacing seemed less like stress and more like fear. She hadn't questioned it then, trusting his reassurances. Now, each detail gnawed at her. Harrison slid a smaller envelope across the desk. Inside are the access keys to the account. I urge you to keep them safe. Very few people know it exists, and those who do may come looking." Naomi's fingers hovered over the envelope, her heart pounding. "How much are we talking about?" The attorney's gaze didn't waver. "Enough to make you a target." Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. Naomi's grief was suddenly shadowed by suspicion, dread, and a chilling realization. Daniel hadn't just left her an inheritance, he had left her a mystery. And someone out there might be willing to kill for it. Naomi barely slept that night. She sat in Daniel's study, the letter and the smaller envelope resting on the desk like weights she could not lift. Every creak in the house made her heart skip. The mansion, once comforting, now felt like a labyrinth of shadows. Her mind swirled with questions. Who was the one who must never know? What enemies had Daniel made? And why had he trusted only Mr. Harrison with this secret? Just as her eyelids grew heavy, a faint sound pricked her ears, the crunch of gravel outside. Naomi froze. The house sat back from the road. No one should be here at this hour. Slowly she walked to the window, pulling back the curtain just an inch. Through the rain-smeared glass, she saw headlights dimmed, a black car idling across the street. Its windows were too dark to see inside. Her breath caught. Was someone watching her? The next morning she confronted Harrison in his office downtown. His lined face grew grim as she described the car. "It started sooner than I feared," he muttered. "Daniel thought they would come sniffing eventually. That's why he insisted the accounts stay hidden until—" He stopped, then added, "until his death." Naomi's voice shook. "But who are they, and why would they care about me?" Harrison leaned closer. "Because now, Naomi, you are the only one standing between them and what they want. And trust me, they will stop at nothing." Her stomach knotted, fear curling into every bone. She thought she had lost everything when Daniel died, but now, she realized, his death was only the beginning of a much darker battle. That evening, Naomi sat by the fireplace, the crackle of burning wood doing little to ease the unease gnawing at her chest. The house felt colder than usual, its silence pressing in. She clutched the envelope of access keys, debating whether to hide it or destroy it. A sudden knock at the door made her jump. She hesitated, her pulse racing, before slowly approaching. Through the peephole stood a man in a dark suit, his smile too polished, his eyes too sharp. "Mrs. Bennet?" His voice was smooth, rehearsed. "My name is Victor Hale. I was a business associate of your late husband." Naomi stiffened. Business associate? Daniel had never mentioned him. Victor continued, "I heard about Daniel's passing. Tragic, truly tragic. I thought I should come by and offer my condolences." His gaze slid past her into the house, lingering too long. Naomi forced a polite smile but kept the chain on the door. "Thank you, but it's late. This isn't a good time." Victor's smile didn't falter, but his tone grew heavier. "I understand. Still, Daniel and I shared unfinished matters. If there are any documents, accounts, or, well, let's just say responsibilities he may have left behind, I'd be very interested in assisting you with them." Her blood ran cold. He knew. Naomi tightened her grip on the door. "I don't know what you're talking about." Victor's eyes narrowed ever so slightly before he tipped his hat. "Of course. But remember, Mrs. Bennet, secrets don't stay buried forever." He turned, stepping into the rain, his black car waiting at the curb. Naomi locked the door, her hands trembling. She realized now, Daniel's enemies weren't shadows from the past. They were here, at her doorstep, and they would be back. Naomi couldn't shake Victor Hale's visit from her mind. His words echoed through the empty halls. Secrets don't stay buried forever. That night, sleep abandoned her again. Instead, she roamed Daniel's study, searching for answers. Her eyes fell on the old oak desk. Daniel had always kept it locked, saying some files were too sensitive for open drawers. With trembling hands, Naomi rummaged through his things until she found the small brass key hidden inside a photo frame. Sliding it into the lock, she heard a soft click. Inside the desk drawer was a bundle of documents tied with a leather strap, and beneath them, something even stranger, a smaller key with a tag, safe. Naomi's breath caught. She remembered the safe Daniel had installed in the library wall years ago. At the time, she had thought it was for contracts or jewelry. Now she wasn't so sure. She hurried to the library, pulling a painting aside to reveal the safe's door. The key fit perfectly. Slowly, she turned it, her heart hammering in her chest. The safe creaked open, revealing neat stacks of files, a flash drive, and bundles of cash, far more than she had ever seen Daniel bring home. But it wasn't the money that unsettled her most. Among the files was a sealed folder marked in Daniel's handwriting, "For Naomi, only if I'm gone." Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside were photographs of unfamiliar men, bank statements under Daniel's alias, and letters that hinted at deals with dangerous people. Naomi pressed a hand to her mouth. Daniel hadn't just been wealthy, he had been involved in something shadowy, something he had kept hidden even from her. And now that secret was hers to carry. Naomi sat on the library floor, the folder spread before her like a Pandora's box she wished she had never opened. Each document painted a darker picture of Daniel's double life. Shell companies, offshore accounts, even coded messages that made no sense to her. The photographs were the worst. Grainy shots of men exchanging envelopes, sitting in unmarked cars, faces captured in the shadows. Whoever these men were, Daniel had been watching them, or they had been watching him. Her phone buzzed suddenly, jolting her from her thoughts. It was Mr. Harrison. His voice was tense. "Naomi, listen to me carefully. Did anyone come to the house?" She hesitated, glancing at the folder. "Yes, a man named Victor Hale. He said he was Daniel's associate." There was a long silence on the line before Harrison spoke again, his tone low and urgent. "Naomi, you must not trust him. Victor isn't an associate. He's one of the people Daniel feared most. If he knows you have the documents, you're in danger." Naomi's throat tightened. "What should I do? I can't just burn them." "No," Harrison said firmly. "Keep them hidden. And Naomi, don't stay in that house alone tonight. Daniel's will wasn't just about inheritance. It was a shield, a way to keep you safe. But now the shield is gone. These men will come for what they think belongs to them." Her hands trembled as she clutched the phone. The mansion's walls suddenly felt paper-thin, unable to protect her. When she hung up, Naomi quickly gathered the documents, locking them back inside the safe. But as she turned, she froze, the faintest sound, floorboards creaking upstairs. She wasn't alone in the house. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. The house was silent, yet she knew what she'd heard. Slow, deliberate footsteps above her. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but her legs felt rooted to the floor. Forcing herself to move, she extinguished the library lamp, plunging the room into darkness. The only sound was her own racing heartbeat. She slipped behind the heavy curtains near the window, clutching her phone tightly in case she needed to call for help. The creaks grew louder, moving down the staircase now. Whoever was in the house wasn't trying to be stealthy anymore. Naomi's hands shook as she fumbled to unlock her phone, but before she could dial, a man's voice called out, "Mrs. Bennett!" The tone was mocking, oily. "You should have let me in earlier. Now, I'm afraid we'll have to do this the hard way." Victor Hale. Naomi's blood turned to ice. She pressed herself tighter against the curtain, praying he wouldn't hear her breathing. She heard him walking into the study, the scrape of drawers being opened, papers shuffled violently. Then silence. Naomi strained her ears, until she realized the silence was worse. He wasn't searching anymore, he was listening. Suddenly, the curtain ripped open. Naomi screamed as Victor's hand clamped around her wrist, yanking her into the open. His smile was cold, predatory. "You have something that belongs to me," he hissed. "Your husband thought he could hide it, but he was a fool, and now his widow is an even bigger fool for keeping it from me." Naomi struggled, trying to pull free, but Victor's grip was iron. Then, headlights flashed through the front windows, another car pulling up the driveway. Victor's smile faltered. Naomi's heart pounded as headlights cut through the night, spilling across the library walls. Victor cursed under his breath, his grip on her tightening. "Who else knows I'm here?" he growled, eyes narrowing. Before she could answer, the front door burst open. Mr. Harrison stepped inside, flanked by two men Naomi didn't recognize. Plainclothes security officers. Their movements were sharp, trained. "Let her go, Victor," Harrison commanded, his voice calm but firm. "You know this won't end well for you," Victor sneered, yanking Naomi closer as a human shield. "You think 2 guards will stop me?" Daniel made promises he didn't keep. Now she pays the price. Naomi whimpered, her fear raw, but Harrison's steady gaze anchored her. He raised his hand slightly, signaling the guards to hold. "Victor, you don't want to do this. Daniel didn't just leave money behind. He left evidence, enough to bury you and everyone tied to you." If you hurt her, that evidence goes public. Victor's jaw clenched. For a moment, Naomi felt his grip loosen as his eyes darted, calculating. She seized the chance, driving her heel hard into his shin. He roared in pain, and the guards lunged forward. In seconds, Victor was wrestled to the floor, his threats drowned out by the thud of fists and the click of handcuffs. Naomi staggered back, clutching her chest, struggling to breathe. Harrison hurried to her side, steadying her. "You're safe now," he assured, though his eyes betrayed unease. But this was only the beginning. Victor was just one piece of the puzzle. Naomi swallowed hard, her hands still trembling. If he wasn't the worst of them, then who is? Harrison glanced at the safe behind her. The answer is in what Daniel left behind. After Victor was taken away by Harrison's men, the mansion fell into an eerie silence. Naomi sat at the library desk, the sealed folder before her. Her hands hovered over it, reluctant yet desperate to uncover the truth. "Naomi," Harrison said gently, "I know you're exhausted, but you need to see this. Daniel didn't just hide money. He hid knowledge, dangerous knowledge." With a deep breath, Naomi opened the folder fully this time. Inside, she found not just bank records and photographs, but letters written in Daniel's familiar script. Unlike the love notes he once left for her, these were precise, almost clinical. Her eyes scanned one letter that stood out. "Naomi, if you are reading this, then I am gone. I never wanted this life for you, but my decisions have caught up with me. The account you now control is not merely money, it is leverage. Documents, files, proof of corruption that runs deep. Men like Victor are only pawns. The real enemy sits higher, cloaked in power, untouchable, until now." Naomi's breath quickened. She flipped through the files, realizing they contained evidence of illegal deals involving politicians, CEOs, even law enforcement officers. Each name was a dagger, each signature a confession. Harrison leaned over her shoulder. "Do you see now? Daniel wasn't protecting money. He was protecting truth. And now, that responsibility falls to you." Naomi's voice trembled. "But why me? Why didn't he go to the authorities?" "Because," Harrison replied grimly, "the authorities are part of it. If this evidence falls into the wrong hands, it disappears. That's why Daniel trusted only you." Naomi felt the weight settle on her shoulders, grief mixed now with purpose. Daniel hadn't left her broken and alone. He had left her with a mission. The following morning, sunlight spilled into the library, but Naomi felt no warmth. She sat at the desk, staring at Daniel's files. Every page she turned revealed deeper corruption, a network of greed and power stretching far beyond anything she had imagined. Harrison poured her a cup of tea, his expression unreadable. "Naomi, you must be careful. If the people named in these documents realize you have them, they'll stop at nothing." Naomi nodded, her mind spinning. "Then we have to act. Daniel wanted this exposed. I can't let his death be for nothing." Before Harrison could respond, a knock echoed through the mansion. Naomi froze. Harrison motioned for her to stay quiet as he walked to the door. When he opened it, a man in uniform stood there, Chief Marcus Doyle, the town's police chief. "Morning, Harrison," Doyle said with a forced smile. His eyes shifted to Naomi, sharp and assessing. "Mrs. Bennett, my condolences. Tough times." Naomi forced a polite nod. Something in Doyle's voice made her uneasy. "I heard there was some trouble last night," Doyle continued casually. "A break-in, a certain Mr. Victor Hale. I'd like to see the report." Harrison's jaw tightened. "It's being handled. No need for concern." But Doyle didn't leave. Instead, he stepped inside uninvited, his boots echoing on the marble floor. His gaze swept the library, landing on the half-open folder on the desk. Naomi quickly tried to close it, but Doyle smirked. "Ah, so Daniel's secrets are finally out in the open." Her blood ran cold. He knew. Harrison stepped forward, blocking Doyle's path. "This isn't your business, Marcus." The chief's smile faded, his tone turning hard. "Everything in this town is my business. And trust me, Naomi, you're in over your head." Naomi's hands trembled as Chief Doyle's words hung heavy in the air. His presence in her home felt like an invasion, his smirk dripping with menace. She realized then, Doyle wasn't here to protect her. He was part of the very web Daniel had tried to expose. Mr. Harrison's voice cut through the tension, calm yet firm. "Marcus, you need to leave, now." Doyle chuckled darkly. "Or what? You'll hide her away like Daniel did? That didn't end too well for him, did it?" His eyes bore into Naomi's, cold and calculating. "You don't know what you're holding, Mrs. Bennet. That file is dangerous, not just to me, but to you. Hand it over, and I might just keep you alive." Naomi felt her fear twist into something sharper. Anger. She rose from her chair, clutching the folder tightly to her chest. Her voice, though shaking, carried a steel Doyle hadn't expected. "Daniel trusted me with this. If you think I'll hand it over, you don't know me at all." For the first time, Doyle's smirk faltered. His eyes narrowed, and he stepped closer, but Harrison moved between them, blocking him like a wall. "Enough," Harrison said. "You've overplayed your hand." Doyle glared at them both, then turned sharply on his heel. "You can't hide forever, Naomi. Secrets like these have a way of swallowing people whole." His footsteps echoed out the door, leaving a chill in his wake. Naomi sank into her chair, clutching the folder as though it were a lifeline. She looked at Harrison, her voice steadier now. "I can't run from this anymore. Daniel wanted me to finish what he started. If these men think they can silence me, they're wrong." Harrison studied her, then nodded slowly. "Then it's time to fight back."